All right, everybody, welcome back from our lunch hour. There were activations going on and a lot of things, a community talk circle, a live podcast, all the good jazz. So I'm really, really excited about this fireside chat. Both of these women I highly look up to. One of them I claim is my twin flame. If you don't know what twin flames are, get with it. Like, you know, we're in the holistic era of being people of color, so do that. So this panel is about menopause, right? And people are like, ooh, don't talk about it, but we have to talk about it. And the real question is, are you ready? And this is one of the panels, when I thought of the woman that I'm about to introduce to moderate it because I feel like she's perfect in the space. And then two, you know, asked her to submit. And then we thought about this again, and we were like, we got to see if she'll do it. Because and I don't think I told you this story, but I was meeting with a woman that's what I assumed wasn't menopause age, and it randomly came up, and she goes, oh yeah, I'm going through early menopause. And I was like, wait, another thing that I need to worry about, I'm 38, and she's only 4 years older than me. So I was like, okay, this needs to start being a normalized conversation, just like birth and everything else. So, you know, with Melanin Minds and what we're doing, all of this is going to be normalized. All of it. It's a community conversation. You know, from the 4th trimester all the way to women start going through changes because we are the seed, the root, the earth, and so it's super important. All right, so now I get to introduce the moderator. All right, this woman, Lashanna Moore, is a holistic practitioner that leads with conviction and compassion. A graduate of U of H. I gave everybody the, and is also from the natural health, and she's into natural health. She's a woman that is in the wellness and holistic spaces and believes that you should live well and whole. Miss Moore is the founder of Wellness with a WELLNASS and Holistically Well Center. She has been a leader in the industry for over 13 and a half years, and she spearheads many initiatives ranging from human trafficking to film and art. So without further ado, Miss Moore.
Thank you. Mic check. Good afternoon, everyone. So glad to have you a part of this fireside chat. So that means we can kumbaya in this conversation together. Thank you for the introduction, Legina, and just a fine job that you and Mel have done this entire weekend. Can we just give them a great praise, like well-due praise for providing all of these resources for us. I am excited to be here with you today to talk about a conversation that is needed, and the momentum around this topic is starting to build a little bit, and I am even more excited to have my sister friend. I guess we'll call ourselves the Pause Twins then, huh?
Oh, wow. That's it. That's
I want to introduce her to you, and we're going to have some really good conversation, and it's interactive, which means that we're going to be able to dialogue back and forth. Since they labeled it as fireside, that means that we can breathe, relax, not really lecture style, although we are going to be speaking to you about some reality things. But to the left of me, the right of you, is a woman that I call the Maven Olivia Pope of business, Maven Miara Shaw, who has been doing this work, I want to say at least over 15, how long have you been doing what? Women,
9.
It feels like it.
It's been a lifetime.
Well, you were born a maven, truth be told. You get to know this woman. But her work is centered around women's business and mentorship and building and finding your work rhythm balance, where some people feel like that cannot be achieved. And you understand it a lot more aesthetically when you meet the Maven. I met you in 2016.
Oh, wow.
She is a loaded, well-crafted woman in the work that she does. And if you ever see her in social media or in the virtual space and meet her in person, what you see is what you get. And we don't often have that experience of meeting people in real life and them being their true selves or their depicted selves, right? So would you give her a big round of applause? Let me introduce Miss Maven Miara Shaw.
She wild. She is wild. Listen, thank you.
Absolutely, sister.
Thank you, Legina, for you and Mel for having me. I have heard several people say throughout this conference that when Legina wants you to do something, she doesn't really be like, Myra, are you available? Can you? She'd be like, oh, I'll put you down. You're going to do the, oh, okay. But it's been absolute pleasure. One of the things I have heard repeatedly through this weekend is to find what works for you. We're going to keep that theme through this menopause conversation because there are so many things, and every woman's body is different, and what might work for one doesn't work for the other. So as we're talking through this, know that you're still going to have to do some work to find out what works exactly for your body. So, yeah.
I agree, Myra. And as you're saying that, it reminds me of a phrase that I can't take credit to penning it or creating it, but it's just been in my spirit that healing is not for sale. I want to say that 2 more times. Healing is not for sale. 3rd time, healing is not for sale. So as we begin this conversation, I want you to really dig deep in remembering who you are as a woman, as an individual, your personal health, your personal care, what is required for you, and the reality that we never reach a finish line. That being well and being whole is a continual journey throughout life. We have milestones that we may achieve, but the overall pursuit of wellness is our entire lives. And then wellness is an evasive term. Wellness is going to mean something different to everybody. So I am in perimenopause. Myra?
The whole menopause. I'm there.
In full menopause.
Yeah.
So I think that allows us a full conversation today. And really just how intricate they are together. They cannot really be spliced as 2 different atoms. They are one in the same. So how do you want to do it? Do you want us to talk and then have conversation or questions, or would you want it to be interactive?
Why don't we explain what
and we'll do that for sure.
perimenopause,
yes,
and then the menopause
from
the
clinical
practitioner
definition.
point. Why don't you explain those?
For sure. So I do want to start with that. With these are the clinical definitions. Here is the disclaimer. Within the information that we're going to share with you today, take in mind that it may or may not be your exact prototype, your exact dynamic, okay? So by clinical definition, perimenopause is the precursor of entering the full menopause stage, which I like to call it a rite of passage. It may not be feeling that way, but it is a rite of passage where women clinically starting at the age of 35, their bodies, their ovaries, Mel, I see your face. Your ovaries, your hormones, namely estrogen, progesterone, androgen, and even testosterone, begin to prepare you for your next rite of passage. We started at birth, and then puberty, adolescent, young adulthood, womanhood, and graduating into our elder years if we are blessed to do so. I think it's a blessing. So certain things begin to happen in perimenopause. We'll talk about the symptoms in a minute. There are always exceptions to the rule. So if a woman has had some type of surgical procedure or extenuating circumstances, even in her 20s, that surgical procedure can throw her skip perimenopause and go right into her menopause. So that's why I say it's a clinical thing, because there are always exceptions to the rule. And then there's menopause. Cue the butterflies. Menopause is that time clinically by age 50. There's always a debate 1 to 2 year digits, 50, 51, where a woman has gone 12 months, consecutive 12 months, not having a period, that's really the demarcation. The symptoms are not, but the demarcation is 12 consistent or consecutive months without a period, then she is effectively in menopause, with or without symptoms. So those are your 2 clinical definitions of peri and meno. And men have their own menopause too, Maven. Yes.
He was like,
Yes.
okay. So let me say this. And so Lashanna is my personal health and wellness coach. I have a doctor. The people with that. I have that. I need multiple people.
Yes.
Okay. So I have been working out with a personal trainer. Lashanna was my personal trainer first. That's how we met, 2016. I have been working out with a personal trainer at this point for 10 years, 10-ish years. 3 days a week, eating clean 80% of the time, all the things. So in my head, I thought I had set up a strategy to skip past some of the stuff. I'm like, I'm already pre-ready, so it won't be as bad. I shouldn't have to go through this.
Right. Lo and behold.
And then what happened?
Yeah.
So last spring, I was doing the same thing, working out, doing all the things, and I started gaining weight while working out. Yeah. Okay, now, my whole spirit was upset, okay? Because I'm doing all this work, but now the scale was going up, my energy level was going down, so I made an appointment for my annual checkup. And so I had just changed insurance companies, let me say that. So this was a new doctor. But I did a whole lot of research to find a black female doctor that was in my insurance. So I thought, black female, she got me, she gonna understand, we good. She already rolled her eyes, she get it. So when I went, this particular doctor was very passive and just disregard. She started like, well, you know, if you work out and eat less, you know, don't eat as much fried food, listen, all of the maven in me came undone. Just
the assumptions.
The assumption that as a black woman, I'm not working out, that I'm eating bad.
Yeah.
I was like, well, again, I had said all these things in the 500 pages that they wanted me to fill out when I went to the doctor. So literally, I left that doctor's appointment, got in my car, and called Lashanna. And was like, oh, hell no.
And commenced to explode.
Because I felt so frustrated that I've been doing all this work, and then I go into a doctor who was just basically rude, right? So that really became, okay, what do I need to do now? And for me, it was a huge shift because I really enjoyed the big, heavy hit workouts, the sweating, the lifting, all of that. Lashanna was like, okay, you're gonna have to change all of that. I'm like, no, I'm gonna be different. I can keep doing that.
Be different.
And then the weight kept going up.
Yeah.
So the thing I want to share with you about going from peri to menopause, and for me it happened at 52, right before I turned 52, is that there are going to be probably some big adjustments that you have to make. And a lot of that had to happen in my mind first. Because I was still,
Definitely,
you know, went through a whole program with Lashanna, and I was mad for the first 30 days.
Yeah.
I was doing the work, but I was still mad.
Right.
Because I'm like, I done set my whole last 10 years up to do these things.
Right.
Now they're saying I got to do a whole shift on that. So know that your frustration, your resistance to a whole new phase in your life, it's a real thing. And for me, I was more aggravated. I wasn't even worried about necessarily, you know, the things happening in my body. I was just mad that what I had been doing was no longer working. No longer working.
That's the psychological part of it. That's why a lot of women feel isolated, they feel alone, they feel defeated when their bodies begin to quote unquote betray them, betray us. Let me include myself in this. I will tell women all the time when I speak with them, whether it's on a peer level or leisure or professional, that I am both practitioner and patient all the time. Nobody, I don't care what they advertise themselves to be, nobody is going to walk this earth their entire life problem-free, sick-free, stress-free. Now, that doesn't mean they have to have long periods of sickness. But the reality is that as long as we're in these decaying bodies, this largest organism, the skin, things are going to happen. And so peri and meno are going to look different for all of us. I was in the airport 2 weeks ago, and the ladies around us, we were just having a conversation, and we shifted into health, and everyone starts sharing their stories and what they're doing and all of that. And there was a lady next to me, she was 60, and she never had any symptoms. And I was like, yeah! Kick you out this conversation, you don't qualify. But you don't always have symptoms. So let's talk a little bit about some of the symptoms. A lot of them are similar in peri and menopause, and then some of them are drastically different. Some of it will depend on any pre-existing issues that you have. I'll share some of my backstory or two of mine with you. I have gone through fibroids and PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. For women who have had fertility issues, reproductive issues, cancers, all cancers, not any particular ones, any type of cancer or autoimmunity, those can possibly affect the symptoms or your experience entering into peri and meno. And so some of those symptoms will include fatigue, extreme fatigue, challenges with your thyroid. Your thyroid is a major comptroller of your body. So just the function, the way that you stand up, reach, lean, pull, bend. Our thyroid is a big part of growth and development of the body. Vaginal dryness, low libido. Maybe you're not interested in sex. You could have it or you don't have to have it. It really doesn't matter to you. You notice there's a shift in your sexual appetite. That can be a major part of it. Brain fog.
Post-it queen over here.
Brain fog, forgetfulness, emotionalism, mood swings, big moods. I had a client one time saying, "Can I tell my husband now? Can I blame?" She said, "Can I blame it on the menopause now?" But mood swings, having a short fuse, joint pain. Let's see, what else? Weight gain, stubborn weight gain. Like Miara was just sharing her story. No matter what you do, the quote-unquote clean eating that the wellness industry likes to portray as the right, model of eating, you can do all that, and it doesn't change. Your body becoming insulin resistant. You don't have to be diabetic to have issues with your body releasing and absorbing insulin. Those are several. Night sweats, cold sweats, all of those. I'll talk about some uncommon symptoms in a minute, but those are some of the main symptoms of peri and menopause. And again, you may or may not have those at all. Myra, do you want to add to any of that?
Yeah, so for me, the 12 consecutive months of no period, I had a partial hysterectomy, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago. So I was already not having a period. So that was not the indicator for me. It was the weight gain and the fatigue and the stubborn weight loss. Like, that wouldn't change. That's when I was like, oh, something's happening here. And here's the thing, no matter what ad you see online about menopause, there is no test to take that says you have menopause. Yeah. There's no test. So whether they're selling it for 99 cents or $99, don't buy that. There's no test. There's no test. Yeah. Your body is going to be the indicator of where you are on your journey. So I think, too, that's why it was a little bit shocking to me, is because the stubborn weight gain that happened, it wasn't the period thing, because I was already not having that. Yeah. So that was...
For me, the weight gain was twofold, because it was the PCOS, which brings insulin resistance, and then, of course, perimenopause saying, "Hey, girl, hey, nice to meet you." The combination of those two things. And again, some women do not have symptoms. So what I recommend women do is to start logging the changes that you see, or the changes that you feel. First of all, don't second guess yourself. Don't throw it over your shoulder and play it off or downplay it, thinking that maybe it's just in your head, or you're just having a bad day, or you had a stressful week. Pay attention to all of those things. You have a right to. Number one, doctors are not required to learn about this hormonal rite of passage. anything regarding hormonal health is completely outside of the curriculum of a physician's work. So unless they intentionally go to seminars and add on to their education, so you can actually go to your doctor, and Miara hit the nail on the head when she talked about having a team. And because we're Black and brown people, we do advocate for that. But there is also a caveat to that, is that you've got to find who sees you and who listens to you and who makes eye contact with you and who's not afraid of or short-fused about you wanting to dialogue with them about what you're going through. Have a complete team, and you can ask your doctor, are you trained in menopause, which will cover perimenopause as well. From your alternative and your holistic to your conventional, because we do need the two of them.
Let me add, this is something else that showed up for me this past year when I went for my physical, was high blood pressure. Yeah. I had never had high blood pressure. I've been working out, went to the doctor, and actually I went to the dentist. Mm-hmm. And the lady checking my blood pressure was like, are you on blood pressure medicine? I'm like, no. She's like, your blood pressure is really high. Who? I said, I don't have blood pressure problems. Right. She's okay, well, just sit here for a minute. I'm going to take it again. Listen, I could not get a dental procedure done that day because my blood pressure was so high. Yeah. So then, get back in the car, high on the medicine, calling Lashanna. Girl, the people said that I got high blood pressure. I literally made my annual appointment, same thing, get to the doctor. The nurse takes my blood pressure. She said, are you on blood pressure medicine? I'm like, no, I don't have blood pressure. She said, your blood pressure is so high right now, we would want to send you to the ER. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's go ahead and talk about this. And literally for the first time, I started taking blood pressure medicine like 2 months ago. Yeah. 2 months ago, because it would not come down. Right. I did acupuncture for 3 months. We did all kind of stuff, changed some diet stuff.
And troubleshooting.
My blood pressure, it would not come down. It remained a triple over triple. Mm-hmm. Now, the crazy thing, I had no symptoms of high blood pressure. I did not have a headache. I had no swelling. I didn't get dizzy. None of the things. Yeah. None of the things that they would say if your blood pressure is that high, did I feel any of that. So started taking them, they had to up it a little bit. So now it's under control, but that was another thing that gave us the indication that the hormones were out of whack, because my blood pressure was high, but I had no symptoms of high blood pressure. I mean, no swelling, no dizziness, no headaches, nothing. Every time I went to the doctor, they're like, your blood pressure's high. And I'm like, but who said that? Let me see. And the doctor literally was like, so because I went to the dentist and they said it, then I bought a blood pressure machine and started tracking my blood pressure 3 times a day, okay? The machine that I bought connects to an app, so you can upload it to the app, keeps a record of it. So when I went to the doctor's office, to keep them from sending me to the ER, which honestly, I'm not gonna tell y'all I wasn't gonna go, but I wasn't gonna go. I could show her my log for the last month so that she could see it's never been this high. Like, there definitely was some white coat syndrome going on. Like, when I go to the doctor, my blood pressure does go up because, again, the lady the year before was talking crazy. So I was already like, what's this gonna be? But because I could show her a log of my blood pressure that I had been tracking for the last 30 days, she's like, okay, it's never read, because it was like 182 over, like, it was crazy. But she could see that it had never been that high. So part of that was me physically being in the doctor's office, because I really only have to go once a year. Yeah. I was stressed out about that literally they didn't send me to the ER that day. And again, hormone related, because I had not had any issues with blood pressure before that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Miara. Can I ask those of you, only if you are comfortable, you're not required, to just show us by raise of hands if you feel or you know that you're in peri or menopause, your rite of passage?
She got both hands up.
And for those who are not, it's great to have the information, number one, because it is a bridge that we're going to cross over, that you're going to cross over. Secondly, you want to have conversation with your elders on particularly your mother's side of the family to know as much as you can, and in as much as they will share, and in as much as you can pry out of them to share. Because for many of the prior generations, they didn't have language, diagnosis, understanding of it. It was just the change, is what they called it. You saw grandparents sleeping in different bedrooms. You just saw a lot of different things. I'm a Generation Xer, so my story may be a little different than you all's.
In that, something that I'm doing, because my daughter's in the room, I'm keeping a track of my medical history so that I can hand it off to her.
Yes.
So that when she gets to this beautiful age, she can show her doctor, here's my mother's history, and here's what's been happening, so that at least they have some groundwork. Like, I kind of started from ground zero, because I didn't have any of my mother's information about what her history was. So I'm personally keeping a good track of that information so I can hand it off to my daughter. So, when she gets here, she'll be able to say, okay, here's my mother's information.
Right. That's so good, Myra. And at whatever age you are, just a side note, whatever age you are, whenever you see your doctors, make sure that you're logging any and everything that you feel. Because what you want to make sure that you're able to do is articulate yourself to your doctors, let them know what you're feeling, where you feel it, what it feels like. It's just like a mechanic may ask you, what did you hear, a bang or a pow or be able to identify those things with your doctor. The uncommon symptoms about this pause rite of passage that Myra was just talking about is high blood pressure, high cholesterol, becoming diabetic out of nowhere. What happens, just want to kind of go back a little bit with the hormonal changes that begin to happen. So estrogen is a very interesting steroid hormone that we need, but she's really tricky. She's really fickle. We have 4 different kinds: estrogen, estradiol, estriol, those 3. And so estradiol is she's the busybody. She's the boss chick. She's the one that tells all of the other estrogens how to move, and she's constantly modulating. So for any of you gamers, do you remember the video game where the blocks fall down and you have to kind of modulate the shape so that it can fit? That's what estradiol does. And her main mission is to fertilize things, cause things to grow. Well, that can be good or bad. You have too much estrogen, you can gain weight. You have not enough estrogen, you can gain weight. So this is why it is very important to try not to self-diagnose and self-treat. Try not to dose yourself. Whatever it is you use, whatever it is you're trying, and I get it. I'm a herbalist. I teach about the endocannabinoid system, thus CBD and all of those wonderful things. And I will tell anybody, don't try to do anything on your own lest you throw something accidentally out of whack that can affect your overall well-being. Your thyroid is one of the primary glands that gets caught in the crossfire. So estrogen, when estrogen starts to shift, it softens our body. So whether you've typically had muscle, you've had some type of muscular structure, smooth skin, estrogen is going to soften those things naturally, which is why, as Myra was saying, she's working out all the time, which you do need to do. Do not stop working out. But what happens is the change in estrogen makes it much harder for us to maintain a fitter look, because it's going to soften the body. Also, black and brown women, biochemically, and also by predisposition, we gather, our stomachs like to have fireside chats. We gather a lot of the weight in our midsection, in our hip, and right at the peak. Anybody ever had that little peak, those peaks on the side? the peak of the hips, that kind of makes the thigh look like a drumstick. That's a big part of what estrogen will begin to do. So whatever size you are, the change in hormones will bring a bigger version of whatever size that is. That could be by 2 pounds or 2 sizes, or 15 pounds in 5 different sizes. Breathe. I know it will make you
We're
panic.
getting a lot of side eyes right now.
Yes, because I am there as well. I'll tell people, like I said, practitioner and patient, I'm going through it too. Those are changes that begin to happen. You can do a lot of weights and it will take longer. And we'll talk, that's not your fate though. So we'll talk about, we're gonna end on a high note. It's not your fate, but you wanna know how to change those things. But I want you to know what's happening with the hormones. And as Miara was talking about the high blood pressure, menopause, both of those two pauses, the pauses can tend to manipulate metabolism. But what mainly starts to happen is that the thyroid hormone is changing. So you start to see the insulin resistance, you start to see high cholesterol, you start to see high blood pressure, some of pre-diabetes. And what you want to have, the conversation you want to have, thank you, with your doctor is to take another look at your thyroid. I suggest your doctors or your practitioners on both sides, because both of them are going to give you great but different analysis.
Let's add this. When I went for my physical checkup with my doctor 3 years ago, this is when I started feeling a little bit of a different fatigue. So when I went to the doctor, and you get your normal blood panel, right? Your normal blood panel is not going to automatically include certain things that you want to look at. So Lashanna sent me to my medical doctor with a list of additional blood work she wanted done, okay? So what are some of those panels? When you go for your annual checkup, they're gonna do blood work. But here are some things that won't be included in that you can ask for. If your insurance pays for it, great. If not, then you have to pay out of pocket.
Out of pocket. And then there are some independent labs. Now, this is what I've been excited to see too, is that new business owners for Black and brown communities are opening up community labs, community clinics that you can go and either provide your proof of income or whatever kind of insurance you have or whatever kind of government assistance or, not the green card, the gold card, I think it is. Whatever it is that you have, you can present because you need help regardless of what's in your bank account or not. But those tests, thyroid, a full thyroid panel, your TSH, your DHEA, T3, T4, free radicals, a full blood panel. But here is the question that you want to ask them that they may not give you in preparation, is to let you know what time of the month to come and get those tests done. Just as if you were going through your fertility journey. And there are certain tests that your gynecologist needs to run on you that can't just be done any time of the month because certain hormones need to be at a certain number for them to be able to accurately see real results or true results. Second thing is, if certain numbers come back normal and you know that you're not feeling normal, ask them to either test you again, try a different time of the month. So let's say for those of you who still have your cycle, I would suggest that you go days leading up to your cycle. If you no longer have your cycle, if you can remember the pattern of when your cycle would come, then you do the same thing. You go and get those tests a few days leading up to the cycle because certain hormones have already started to kind of modulate and prepare for, even many times when you've had partial hysterectomy, your body will still go through those cycles and those patterns. So get a second test, second opinion, share them with both bridges of your team. And remember too that these tests just started including women, not even going through races and ethnicities, just started including women in the 90s. The entire test was made by this neuroscientist in Australia back in the 1800s because he was a mathematician and he wanted to see these other figures. That's how the test came to be. The third thing I would say is when they send you your test results, usually your physician should go through them with you. Don't look for what's in the normal range. For you black and brown women, look for what should be in the optimal range. Your numbers, it's not good enough for us to be in the normal range because our physiology is different. Look for the numbers of the optimal range. That's really what we want to strive toward. You want to add to that, maybe? Any questions? I'll just stop and take a pause right there. Yeah.
She says not
Not
just
in
your
add
hip.
body parts. It's called the peak of the hip. So usually like when we're getting measured, for whatever reason that may be, your seamstress or your coach, your health coach will measure across the hips, across the peak of the hips.
They include that.
Yes, because that's typically the area where the drop in estrogen or the elevation, because remember I said estrogen can do either one, where it will gather and accumulate here. Also, the visceral fat that accumulates in our midsection. Now you have adipose fat, which is the fat that we can pinch and we say, ugh, child, and all of that too, but that's not the most important. Visceral fat is the invisible fat that gathers around our organs, that determines our cardiovascular health, potential diseases, and all of that. There's a way to measure that as well, but that's the fat that we want to go after. So there, I guess you could say there's a part of vanity in this journey that we have a right to have. We do need smaller waist, but for that purpose, for the visceral fat. And before we finish out, we'll give tips to the physical, the nutrition, the mental, just the whole lifestyle thing. Any other? Did I answer that? You did, but you said it was 3 estrogens, right? Estrogen, estriol, and estradiol. Estradiol is the one that determines the function of the femininity of the body. Femininity is about physiology. It's not about behavior. Because I'm, many ways, and still a tomboy, like I was as a girl. I'm just a tomboy and I like to dress up. But so physiology, femininity is physiology. Your estradiol determines the growth and the change in the body. So you can have conversation with your doctor if you want specifically about estradiol. Don't just stop at estrogen. Estrogen is the umbrella, but estradiol is the one that determines. Estradiol is also the one that can determine our propensity for breast cancer, ovarian cancer, because we do have estrogen dominance. This is important also with who you watch and who you follow. As a black practitioner, I have other colleagues that I like to follow and listen to as well. But I also notice that based on their audience and who they service, there's certain teachings that don't apply to us. I've heard several of them say that estrogen dominance is not a thing. Yes, it is. Estrogen dominance is a big physiological factor for us. So you have to weigh those things out with who you follow as well. But those are the 3 estrogen types.
And Lashanna and I have talked about this. Menopause is the next money grab in the medical space. So if you notice online, there's a whole lot more conversation about menopause because there's a huge part of our community that's now in that age bracket. Yeah. So be mindful of, because you know what happens on Instagram, you click on one thing and then you get an ad every other post about the thing. Everybody is not for us. Everybody hasn't studied black and brown women, and so it's not necessarily that they're giving out bad information. Their information just doesn't apply to us. So be mindful, because you're going to start to see more of an uptick on all of the cures and solutions and the powders and the pills for menopause when it's, you know, if it was that easy.
Very true.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. They do. A lot of them are similar to ours. So there's this.
She asked, "Do men about men going through menopause?"
I'm feeling you. They do. They have hormonal changes as well. Their testosterone, androgen can start to change. We have estrogen. Both sexes have androgen. Emotional, mood, especially for men who are already not in touch or clear about detecting their mood changes, their bodies start to soften as well. Their weight tends to gather in the midsection. So there are protocols and considerations that they need to take note of as well. For both skin, I didn't add insomnia, but that's a big part on both ends as well. His sexual health can be affected as well.
The insomnia, the magnesium worked for me. Listen, the waking up every couple of hours, I'm not good when I don't get enough sleep.
Right.
That's my truth. I'm unmaven-like. The magnesium really did work for me. Now, there's multiple types of magnesium, right? But that did work for me in helping me sleep throughout the night and have a more restful sleep so that I woke up not feeling tired from being asleep. So that insomnia, that's a real thing.
It is very real.
Yeah.
And for both genders, it's very real. It's very real. I'll say this too, for men, it is important for them to understand that they're going to go through changes, and regardless of age, because now we have reports of men in their 20s who are going through a lot of sexual health issues, hormonal issues. I wouldn't call them issues. I just call them challenges, because we're all going to have them. It's important that they understand the need to talk with their doctors. It's important that they understand that if they have a significant other, that they have that conversation with them as well, because none of it is made up. None of it is just in your head. These are changes that we all are going to navigate to some degree or another. Yeah. So that's a good question.
So don't let the men say, I ain't have, sir.
And is.
Any other questions? Oh, magnesium. She wanted to say, she asked what type of magnesium, and I don't remember.
That's a good question, because there are several types of magnesiums, and even though brands may be suggested, you may go through different brands before you find one that works for you. So here's that personal care thing. Anything I give you today, I'm going to encourage you to give time for it. But magnesium glycinate, that's glycinate, our bodies absorb that particular magnesium better. There's magnesium citrate, which is more for gut health or for digestion, bowel movements. But magnesium citrate is really good for the body's relaxation, the body's development, and for those who often experience insomnia.
And that's the one that I take, the magnesium citrate. The first day I got it, came from Amazon, I took it right then. I had to have a whole nap in the middle of the day, because it does relax you and kind of help you sleep a little better. So I had to learn to take that at bedtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, when it comes to vitamins and the teaching on vitamins, some are suggested in the morning, some are suggested in the evening. Even that can change. Like, really, what we are promoting to you is that you gotta give yourself room to trial and error. Okay, 3 months now. Okay, this hasn't worked. Don't feel bad about it. That's life.
And I'm gonna pivot. I'm gonna give this plug for Lashanna on her website, Holistically Well. She's a lot of great resources, because as we talk about vitamins and supplements, all brands are not the same. Some brands are filled with trash.
A lot of fillers.
A lot of fillers. So for me, I mean, when I need to get on a new supplement, I do a consult and we figure it out, what brands do. Now, I know some of the brands now that she recommends, i.e. one of them is Dr. Mercola. Really great band, a little bit more expensive, but what they say is in the supplement is what's in there, right? But don't think, oh, they said magnesium, and then you run to Walgreens and just pick up magnesium.
Look at the active ingredients for one.
So be aware that every brand is definitely not the same.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. It's Holistically Well with a W, holistically, W-H, well, W-E-L-L, .co. So holisticallywell.co. My podcasts, their blogs, YouTube channel. Maven and I have done several episodes on her YouTube channel about hormone. We have a good old conversation.
There are
It's a good
several
time.
episodes on YouTube or my podcast, which is Success with Sameness, where we talk about this in more detail. Because one of the reasons I started sharing my peri and menopause journey with my audience is because I don't want women to feel some level of shame or I can't tell anybody about this. We're all going to go through this at some point, right? And so really opening up that conversation so that you can learn something from me, I can learn something from you. Again, it might not all work the same for each other, but really for me sharing it is really to help open up the space so women don't feel isolated or feel ashamed about a natural part of your journey. Like, it's good to go through it. That means you're still living. You're still here.
That's true.
You know, as my mother used to say, the alternative is not waking up saying good morning.
Right.
So it's a natural part of the journey. So being able to share and talk about it and get the information is my main reason for sharing it.
Mine's a question and a comment. So, like, as we're talking about this particular part of life, I also enjoy observing, like, I remember when I first met Myra, and I was like, the aunties are here. She was like
Call me no auntie.
right. But then when I'm talking over here to the other side, she's like, that's right. We enjoy watching you just trip and stumble and fall and fall. And so it's really cool because, like, also this information you're giving, like, and I've shared with y'all, like, is the medical stuff, it scares me. And I keep going backwards, and I'm like, okay, I see y'all doing it, so you go forward. But my question is the transition into menopause, but also, like, can y'all talk a little bit about your mindset and, like, the things that, you know, how we talk about if you would have told your younger self, like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Time. I want to piggyback off of what Myra said, the need to share. It is very important. The need to share for me is similar, coupled with the reality that, again, no matter what you have acquired, the letters, the degrees, the certifications, that none of us bypass it. So for me, it's important to help women feel identified and say, oh, okay, well, she's a practitioner, she does this and that, and she has fibroids, she's got PCOS, she's dealing with weight gain. No one is exempt. That's very important because we have a long road in changing the narrative of wellness being perfection, political, hierarchical. Think about it. Foods are hierarchical. Wellness is hierarchical and political. In this holistic industry, they are just as greedy for your dollars. One is not more superior than the other. It has also caused me to give some physicians a lot more grace. When I see how greedy it is on the health and wellness side and everything that they're pushing and promoting and selling, and it won't change because as long as we're trying to fix ourselves, it's not going to change. But patience, because there are still times that I look at myself and be like, ooh, tell you exactly what I know. Oh. We do all of those things. Patience. Will we ever aspire to never do it? I cannot say. Number one, it's the culture that we live in. It's years upon centuries of images that we have seen from the Victorian era. This is way back from before your greats were even thought about. The 1800s is where all of these things began. So what you want to do mentally is start practicing giving more grace and more patience. Some days will be better than others. I have to I'm a lot more patient with myself because this body has been through a lot. And so I'm less abrasive and less critical because I'm like, girl, you've carried me through a lot of stuff. I love you and I appreciate you. But on the flip side of that, I will still find myself saying, ooh, all right, we got to hit up them squats, them glutes trying to slide a little bit, you know, and remind, because that happens too, remind myself that it's one day at a time. It's not a 21-day journey. Sometimes it will take you a year plus. It will take you a year plus to really start to see significant change, small changes, because all of our bodies respond differently. So the mentality is, this is one day at a time, this is unique, and it's an uphill journey, because as long as there are visuals, you're going to fight against all of the visuals that you see, the quote-unquote perfect body. I try to make sure that every image is represented on anything visually I see, that women can see their bodies as they are, because there is a journey for each of us to ascribe to. Miara, what do you want to say about that?
I would definitely say the grace. I know at the top of the year, I don't remember what the program was that I was doing with Lashanna on getting me out of the big hit workouts to, she was like, you just need a 20-minute workout and a walk on the other days. And I'm like, that ain't gonna be enough. Right. I need to lose these side things and get my clothes a little tight, all the things. And Lashanna would randomly send me text messages, be patient, Maven. Because I'm an executor. Again, I want everything to be fast. And when I started going to an acupuncture therapist, after she met me a couple times, soon as I walk in the office, she's like, be patient. Why y'all keep saying that? I don't want to be patient. I want to hurry up. So really giving grace to yourself, because, and for me, all these years of working out, trying to stay fit and healthy and all those things, my biggest motivator is I want to be cute and fly in my clothes. Yes. That kept me going. Mm-hmm. People are like, oh, that's vain. That's fine. I want to be cute in my clothes. Yeah. Okay? That's it. That's what kept me seeing the trainers, going to the gym, doing all the things, because that's how I felt better. So now I had to really give more grace, be patient. Lashanna kept saying, Maven, it's not going to be quick. I'm like, well, where's the pill, the supplement, or the powder? I'll buy it. I got some money. I can get it. Right. And that's not the journey, especially here. In your 30s, certain things happen, and I could, you know, change my diet for a week, work out hard, and boom, 10 pounds come off. Mm-hmm. 40s, it got a little slower. I mean, that thing's at snail's pace right now. It's slow.
It's slow. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
be patient.
Okay. Yeah. Did that answer your question? Yeah. And support and a circle.
Yeah. The support.
You know what we tend to do is when someone finds something that starts working for them, they become the advocate of fitness and wellness. Well, all you got to do is do this, and that. Okay, well, that's what's working for you, and that's what's working for you right now. That may not be your story 10 weeks down the line, or when grief hits your life, or when, you know, something, or a diagnosis unexpectedly comes, or you have to relocate where the climate is different, or your body is just going through another bio-physio shift. What works, I want us to remember to walk slowly in this journey, because what worked in our teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s will not always be the same. Thank you. We have 5 minutes. Will not always be the same. Your foods. I have added dairy back into my diet, because whole fat, because number one, our brain survives off of a lot of fat. There's been a lot of propaganda. I won't spend our time with that on alternative milks, but also because we need that fat for metabolic health. Now, that could work for 80% of the women that add dairy back in. It may not work for 20% of the women that add dairy. You see where I'm going with this? Try it. Don't demonize it. Say, okay, well, I tried. I gave it at least 3 months for anything. This worked. I'll keep it. Okay, this didn't work. Don't demonize it. For various physio reasons, it didn't work for you. Remove it and go on. So it's a lifelong reprogramming for me as well.
And that's why you need community, because things are changing.
Yeah.
Doctors and holistic practitioners are learning new things. When Lashanna told me to add the whole dairy back into my diet, I'm like, girl, we wasn't doing dairy.
Right.
What's it? She's like, okay, there's been some new information, all the things. Now, I wouldn't have known that, because that's why I pay the people that know. I don't want to do all of that research, right, to figure that out. But as more information, people learn more, different things changes, then you want to try to do the best thing for you, okay? And that has helped me. Now, I don't drink regular milk. I don't even drink milk, but I didn't go crazy in the dairy and like, oh, I'm having, that's not what she had said anyway.
Banana split with the
right.
all the stuff.
So these small little tweaks, things here and there, they serve to try to help you make the adjustments and give your body what it needs. Give your body what it's wanting in the season that you're in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And an article can't always tell you they've done no testing on you. They don't know your family history. They don't know any pre-existing conditions you have. They don't know what exposures to anything that you have been exposed to. It's hard to just take, you kind of, Grandma used to say, chew the meat and spit out the fat. But I'd like for us to use these last few minutes for anything that you want to say or ask that we haven't covered or haven't thought about, any questions that you all may have, any tips that you may want.
You may have touched on it, but have any dietary changes been helpful?
Oh, for sure. Adding more healthy fats, because there are certain functions that our body pulls on healthy fats for. Healthy fats would be your avocado, that's one. Nuts like walnuts, pistachios, sunflower seeds, your cold water fish, your albacore tuna, of course, salmon is one. Omega-3s is a good regular supplement for men and women for heart health and for healthy fat. What else have I done? I've added the whole fat dairy because it doesn't go through the process where it loses its calcium and its vitamins. So the whole fat yogurt, I like to enjoy. I'll use it for various reasons. I actually added
in intermittent fasting. So in my 30s and 40s, it was you got to have 3 meals, 2 snacks, eat 5 times a day. No, I just don't eat like that anymore. So I normally do intermittent fasting almost every day until 11 a.m. Stop eating at 7 p.m. I don't eat again until 11 a.m. And I try to start with a savory meal, not a sweet, because it spikes your glucose. And if people saying pre-diabetic, blah, 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 that works for me. Now, the first month or so, I was starving. Now, I don't even really think about it. But the intermittent fasting has helped me lose some of the visceral fat around my midsection.
And when you lose visceral fat, you will see it physically as well, just like the adipose tissue. She said we had 2 minutes. Trying things that do work. For intermittent fasting, it works for me in phases. It works for Maven. For some people, it does not. For anyone who is addiction prone, I do not recommend it, because you will start to use intermittent fasting as a gateway of unhealthy weight loss, just like a lot of the disorders that we have. Find both of us. I'd say I'd use these last 2 minutes too to find both of us online, because this is the work that we do in our various lanes and industries, and we can further the conversation, maybe.
So my website is MyraShaw.com. You can find me on any social platform by putting in Myra Shaw as well.
Miara. And I am online at Holistically Well. That's WHOLISTICALLY. Well, Instagram Holistically Well Center. Website holisticallywell.co. And YouTube Well Life TV. But if you go to the website, all of that's on there. Podcast and everything. Did we do it? Hey!
This was
Thank
so
you
wild.
all. Thank you, ladies.
Give it up, y'all. Go Menopause! Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all. I was like, y'all, the aunties, I was like, do you want to be done? If you do, then I'll let you be done. Yes. Yeah, that was really good. I really, really appreciate it. So we're about to do closing session in a second. Until then, we're going to play a little bit of music. Going to give a giveaway. You know what? Let's do a giveaway right now. Before people get up here, the odds are in your favor. Hold on. Let me find. Yes. Okay, cool. Cool. So some of y'all know, some of y'all may not. I have a podcast. It's called Lorraine Infinity Let's Talk Podcast. And I am shooting my 4th and final season right now in the Esperson building downtown. You know, this connected to the underground tunnels and all that stuff. And yeah, it's a really great podcast. You should listen to it. One of the ladies that is on season 4 of my podcast, season 4 is not only audio, but it's video too. So this is my first time doing video on the podcast, and so it's a full-on production. This lady right here, she's actually speaking at the conference, Angelica Robles, and she, like, FBI, got blacklisted. I don't even know. It's in the book, but she says it on the podcast. She married like a person from the cartel and didn't know it, and that's how she got blacklisted. It's like a whole thing. This is her book, and she just got off of the Forbes list, or she was on Forbes or something, and then she also has sold this to Netflix, yeah, Netflix, and she's out of LA. She's doing a lot of stuff, right? This book has it all in there. Let's give it away. Let's do name 3 of the